Dearly redheaded, we are choosing consciousness today to get through this thing called grief. Interesting word, grief. It means love, which makes for a mighty good joke. But I'm here to tell you, there's nothing else. Just joy. And if the big picture tends to bring you down, go crazy once your life goes. Woo!
So I'm back with episode 2 with Pamela. Brian has just weighed in as to the distinction of the literal Stockholm, where both the captors and the captive had feelings for one another. And my comment was, I don't think anybody goes into a bank to rob it and expects to be there for days. So I imagine the affinity for both sides grew as a result of the human experience.
Yeah. But yes, I agree.
I have to watch it again because I have to get the distinction of how Patty's situation was made analogous to that. I don't know how I always put her in that mix and couldn't separate. But again, knowing me, I know how I do it, so I'm not trying to have a conversation there. But one thing I wanted to mention, you mentioned largely men, in the case of POWs, aligning with their captors. I thought of the movie Misery. Kathy Bates, James Caan. I'm assuming I don't have to explain to you or Brian. You both remember that movie. But nobody, whoever nobody is, but I don't think anybody would accuse the male character, the actor, the character of becoming attached to Kathy Bates. He definitely was in a survival mode,
right,
to usurp any kindness he could get out of her.
Right.
So it just came up for me that because it was a man being brutalized,
yep,
that one would assume, he, societally, that he would do what he had to do to get out of it.
Right.
In which case, rape becomes important because that's something done to dominate a woman, not often to dominate a man, not that it doesn't happen.
Right. Well, right.
I mean, it can happen, but you know what I mean?
It can happen.
Right.
Yeah, I do. And yeah, I think that I again, I do believe that there's a human experience, like what you said, that comes into play. Because now this isn't just your captor or, somebody that you have captive, your hostage. You're getting to know this person. There's a feeling or a sense that they're a real person, not just this, obstacle or pawn, right? It's a real person. And so something does kind of start to happen there. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
But it also puts you in alignment against the police, because in the situation in Stockholm and the situation in Sebastopol, I'm taking now Patty Hearst out of this. The police were very, very threatening. In the Sebastopol situation, they were threatening to have clear shot inside the house where the kids were. One of the police men indicated to the mom that, he was out for blood because his men had been shot, not killed, but wounded, and that her kids were essentially secondary to him getting his man.
Right.
And in the situation in Stockholm, and again, I got to watch it again now because this is pissing me off what I don't remember, but it's also who I am. They were pumping gas into the bank and making decisions to, what things that could potentially injure the hostages, not just the people who were responsible for the robbery.
True.
I relate it. I still think about, trauma bonding is a phrase. It's not that it's inappropriate, but I still have an affinity for Stockholm when it means the right thing.
Yeah.
When it's used to, and it happens to men and women. We've been talking mostly about women, but it definitely applies to men being, I just call it Stockholmy in their relationship with their marital relationship, familiar, workplace, whatever it is. It works both ways.
Yeah. And so I think that, again, so how I see it, and I'm going to go back to looking at the energy of it. Okay.
Yep.
So you're in a high intensity crisis trauma event, right? When some kind of kindness comes in,
It's huge.
whether it's in whether it's in the hostage, the victim, or the captor, the abuser, even. Okay, we're going to talk about this in domestic terms. That kindness is like an energy. It hits in the places my feeling is it's in the body, not just in the psyche, but in the body, that body needs it most. So it hits into a place that is suffering, and then all of a sudden this kindness comes in like a healing. And when that is felt, there's this bond is formed. And I see it again as like an energy bond, not to take away the humanity of it, or even the psychology of it,
or the inhumanity.
Or the inhumanity, right? Any of that is still relevant, but I think that it's something that's felt on such a deep level that is maybe inexplicable, and I'm trying to explain it on an energetic level, that happens, that then forms this bond.
Well, you're speaking from the perspective of what I tolerated and endured from family and then marital, is you'll take 9 out of 10 punches to the gut for the 1 out of 10 kindness.
Yes.
And that's what, that's the dopamine hit.
Yes.
So
yes.
Why do we do it? I'm still crawling out of that one. I mean,
because it's a dopamine hit, if you want to say it that way, because it's like, it's a high.
Yeah.
There's something, but also because it's something that we need.
And that's the survival element.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you're preaching to the choir. I did it. I'm still mortified by what I endured and tolerated, and I wouldn't have had the opportunity for that to be severed It didn't. The opportunity didn't even present till, say, 20 years ago when I started to get it. But it still took me until fairly recently, last couple of years, to really get it. Because getting it and knowing what you do and then healing from it and altering your brain and altering decades of dysfunctional processing, not due to your own contribution, but the contribution of others. I mean, it's, I think you would agree that we're only just really dealing with the magnitude of the damage to the brain that it does.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't disagree with that. I think that it's more. I think that I think and feel that there's something that's sensed so deeply in a person that maybe doesn't necessarily come from the brain. It comes from an energetic environment as well, that because it's so deeply felt inside, it's hard to shake.
Yes.
It's equated to a knowing, maybe. That it's that sixth sense that I'm actually safe, even though your brain is saying you're not, but there's a feeling inside you that's saying you are. You can relate it to the whole heart versus head romantic, conflict that goes on with people. So I think that, when that's felt in the body for some people, that it's believed. And that then moves into, whatever bond you might feel with that person. And to come back to the original Stockholm, bank robbery, they didn't want to testify because there was a bond that was formed, and they wanted to protect them. They wanted to protect these bank robbers who were very capable. And I believe in the documentary, they pointed out that one of the robbers had already, I think, killed people and was wanted or something. Maybe I'm getting that wrong, but I believe that was true, and were very capable of harming them. And they turn around and are saying, no, I want to protect this person. Not necessarily just because the police were like lynch mobs, but because they just didn't want anything bad to happen to them. And so why is that?
I would say that was true of me with my family and in my marital situation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why I think it's so powerful to describe long-term dissociation. What the bank robbery to me is dissociation in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And I had, and I forget what you know and what I've shared with you and what I've shared on here, but my 20 years in a marriage, I compared to 6 months with a roommate. It had the same effect on my brain. And the roommate situation is when I finally got the T-shirt. You know what I mean? Like I had to have one last experience that made me go, I got it. Okay. I got this. But it had it devastated me in 6 months, whereas the 20 years with my ex was drawn out. So I would imagine in that that environment, like I would imagine, you're out of it, but you're still defending the parties that harmed you, because that's, I mean, that's what I did. It took me years to say and feel and know. So I would have to imagine that if somebody's going to defend somebody post the robbery, that they are still reflecting back to the experience more than having it's still some level of dissociation, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there is, and there's, more work to be done there. And, I think I stand by what my senses tell me, and that is that it's okay what is going on in my body, and I want to trust this. And why do I trust this? And where is this healthy for me? And what is it that, I need to sort of shed or let go of?
Yeah. And Pamela, I think, fortunately or unfortunately, we are just really looking at this crap. I do well. Delving into this stuff the last several weeks has definitely had a consequence, and I knew it would, and I didn't know how it was going to be, but it's also had a very there's an upside to it, because I still and I feel for men, but you work with more women, and we are women. I still endure and enable too much, but not for me as how do I explain this? It's because it is so societal. And the powers are such that domination. You used the wild animal analogy in the first episode, but we still fundamentally as women are operating in a power structure that doesn't favor us.
Right.
So even though I'm not tolerating and stand up and defend and ask for, most times I'm still being judged by that system more than my own body and mind and heart.
Yes.
Okay, there, I said it.
Yep.
And I think that's what is sad for me now doing this work. Coming out of finance and being in a man's world and having been respected in that world, space, now doing something that's decidedly more feminine and realizing, wow, nobody real, and I mean nobody in a flippant way, but people don't understand the magnitude of the damage this has done through the generations. And to men too. I'm not, it just, if we don't, as women, stand up, our counterparts and the men that experience this are not going to see any grace. Because if that same power structure is inadvertently affecting them who have a sense of the benefit of female energy and power.
Yes.
Too much, or
no, it's right. And yeah, I mean, where do we go with that? I don't know. I really don't know. I think that, it's something that is,
I have a pattern. I stand up, I stand up, I stand up, I stand up, I blow. I stand up, I stand up, I stand up, I stand up, I blow. And I know a lot of women will tell me, well, I don't stand up. And then it festers. And they think the difference is starting to stand up. And I'm like, okay, well, when you stand up, that's when the real shit show starts.
That's right.
And
no, that's right. It is. And when you say you blow, you mean like rage?
I'm still trying, not like May 8th, 2024, when I really blew. But I would say it is rage, but it's rage that I'm in touch with. And then I ask myself, well, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to continue to heal so I can offset energetically what it takes out of me? And the answer 9 times out of 10 is yes, but sometimes I just have to step back and just be like, I have to, get, because my inner critic is an SOB. And I know that I still experience CPTSD in ways that I don't even know if I'm comfortable talking about, because I don't think the world, do I mean the world? I don't think people are really ready for the rage in women, and we're headed to rage next. But, the things that I think about and how it manifests are not, I know they're not, they could happen, but it's unlikely. And I don't mean where I lose my shit again. That's not what I mean. I just mean how that rage manifests in a way that is detrimental to self.
Right.
And I don't mean suicide. That's not what I mean either.
No, I know. Yeah.
And yeah. I have had to accept that I'm going to live with CPTSD. If it took me 54 years to get to the point where I live with it successfully, I'm like, well, it's not like it goes away.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the unfortunate thing. And I think that's the thing that as a healer, I mean, I think that's who I am in a nutshell. For many years, it was something that I constantly tried to fix or cure. So
about yourself or others?
About myself. I worked with others too, with, shamanic energy healing work, which I know helped, but it didn't stop it.
Right. It all helps.
Yeah, it does. It all helps. And I mean, you're getting a little bit better, with every, treatment that you have, whatever that might be. But it is something that I think when there's an acceptance of it, that it actually starts to give you more of what you were seeking in the long run, which is peace.
Yeah, I can see, like, I sometimes wonder in a good way, like, where I'm headed. Like, is it going to be the CPTSD route? Is it going to be the humor route? You know, is it going to be, I'm going to share some new legislation with you that got me all fired up. Like, I'm ready for it to unfold and to go where I want to be and getting some satisfaction in doing for others. That being said, I can't help wanting to delve deeper into it. Like, I think, and I've already alluded to it, that we're not, I mean, what my brain, I keep hinting, and I hate it when I do that and don't give an example, but I ran the risk of real attacks, both childhood, maritally, and afterwards. They were real. They weren't fictitious. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They never materialize, but my brain will still show me scenarios in which that is possible. And probably largely tied to using my voice.
Mm.
And when it happens, I'm like, okay, got it. Go away. But it doesn't stop my brain from creating scenarios. And it's 9 times out of 10 tied to safety, as you sort of indicated. I don't remember if it was this episode or last episode.
Yeah.
So I, many years ago, was totally fixated on what made me safe so I could keep those images and thoughts at bay.
Yeah. I mean, that is like the primal fear, you know, of life, is that you're either safe or you're not. And I think that makes total sense that's I think it's probably on different levels, everybody's.
Right. No doubt. That's why I want to, that's why I want to say, okay, there's more there. Let's really examine the dark. You know,
Right.
let's really go. What do you really think about? What, you know, and it's not that I'm unwilling to do it. I just wish there were more willing participants. You know, and that's why I write. Talking here is very different from what I write, and I am also selfishly sparing my own brain. I push myself on the podcast to do what I can handle, but there is a point at which I know it's better, and processing the poison through writing will be a more successful solution for the way that I'm hardwired than doing this podcast. But I can't.
Yeah, and I mean, the humor that you bring in is absolutely essential.
Okay, and we're at the end of 2, and maybe we should lead with this in the 3rd. But humor brings out the rage and the abuser. Talking about it, making fun of it. That's you know, no offense, but not to you, but to how people looked at Minneapolis, but that officer was being toyed with. That's when the rage comes out. And we don't have to get into that, but that's what I saw.
Well, yeah. And it's
women standing up. You sure you want to do that? We're taught to, you know, not stand up to the people who have the power or have the strongest disorders.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for listening and supporting Natural Born Redhead. If you follow the bouncing balls, please like and subscribe. If you know someone interested in sparing others grief and inciting joy, message me on Facebook or reach out via my website, Natural Born Redhead. J Ma.